Greetings, dearest viewers. I'm Locust, your resident gaming sage, the clandestine contact in your girlfriend's phone, listed as Domino's Pizza, and currently a man of leisure sidelined by medical advice from the gym. It's an uncharacteristic malaise for someone of my vigor, so why not lift my spirits? A simple like, a heartfelt subscribe, and perhaps a notification bell rung could do wonders. And if you're so inclined, share this discourse with a friend, a foe, a hoe, or perhaps someone who blurs the lines in between the two. In reflection, these categories may not be as distinct as we once thought. So grab a box of condoms, grab your tinfoil hat, and grab your controllers. Let's start the video. Who are we advertising this? This is for gamers. Anyways, allow me to pose a series of questions for you, designed to plumb the depths of your social acceptability. Are you perchance akin to the average, well-adjusted human, capable of societal integration, and thus predisposed to adoring infants? Do your taste buds incline towards the saccharine? And what of your stance on corporate entities? Do they stir within you a feeling of fondness? Now imagine, if you will, these elements combined into a singular, cohesive entity, Sweet Baby Incorporated. Should your affections not extend to this hypothetical merger of cuteness, social justice, and capitalism, one might be inclined to label you a bigot. And in a twist that could only be described as zeitgeist-defining, according to the latest from Sweet Baby Inc.'s digital facade, bigotry, it seems, is not just tolerated, but trending. So, hot off the heels of Square Enix getting pristinely wiped off the consultancy agency's client list, in which we covered in a previous week's roundup, linked in the cards, it turns out that YouTuber SmashJT discovered that Sweet Baby Inc. has completely wiped the entirety of their client list off their website. There are a few explanations for this. One of them might be that the game companies are getting the idea that they don't want to be associated with Kim Belair's agency. The other option is they want to stealth a relationship so they can continue to implement the DEI agenda into your favorite video under your nose. And as you're going to see further in this video, this may seemingly begin the start of a very insidious pattern. Feeling like something's missing in your life? No, I'm not talking about that ring missing on your finger. The one that's supposed to symbolize undying love? You're a hopeless virgin after all, right? Or maybe it's not even that. Maybe what you're missing is the thrill of a ring world. Well, hold on to your thrusters because we've got some juicy Halo news that'll make you forget all about those rings that make you realize that no one loves you. It looks like the folks that developed the Halo games have been quite busy. Not with just one, but multiple projects. It's like they've been cooking up a whole galaxy of content, and it's about time they served it up. 343 Studios, a company behind the Halo series, has officially gone through a rebrand and changed their name to, get ready for it, Halo Studios. Studio head Pierre Hintzes had this to say: "If you really break Halo down, there have been two very distinct chapters. Chapter 1, Bungie. Chapter 2, 343 Industries. Now, I think we have an audience which is hungry for more, so we're not just going to try improving the efficiency of development, but change the recipe of how we make Halo games." Other notable points are that the studio spent the last 2 years on Project Foundry, a research project to explore Halo on Unreal Engine 5, and that the studio is growing. So, we start a new chapter today. You'd think that this would be a moment for celebration, a fresh start, and the promise of a visual fidelity that could make your jaw drop faster than a Spartan shield in a Covenant ambush. And here we are, basking in the glow of what should be a triumphant announcement from 343 Industries, now rebranded as Halo Studios, as they embrace for the mighty Unreal Engine 5 for all future Halo endeavors. But no, we've got to steer the pot while dumping a whole bottle of soy sauce, because why not? Now, again, do not contact or harass this person. Leave them alone. I see you over there, you little bigot. But enter Nick, the creative designer at Halo Studios, who decides to share his unique perspective on weaponry in video games. He is quoted in saying, "I honestly don't think I could work on a game that glorifies or fantasizes modern guns, like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Rainbow Six. I've had moments I've struggled with Halo, but the weapons and world is pretty sci-fi, which creates a large enough separation from reality." I'm all for personal beliefs, but when you're in an industry where your job is to design games like Halo, where weapons and world are pretty much synonymous with sci-fi warfare, and you struggle with the concept of modern weaponry, one might wonder if you've accidentally wandered into the wrong industry convention. Buddy, you're working on games where separation from reality is the whole point. Halo's human weapons might have sci-fi aesthetics, but let's not pretend they're not rooted in real-world gun mechanics. Recoil, impact, trajectory, these aren't just sci-fi concepts. concepts, they're the bread and butter of why shooting in Halo feels so good. If you're squeamish about the implications of warfare, perhaps the universe of Halo, where battles are the norm, isn't exactly your stomping ground. The situation just screams wrong person for the wrong job, or at least a severe case of cognitive dissonance. It's like being a vegetarian chef in a steakhouse, not because you're against the meat, but because you're iffy on how the steak knife looks so real. The community, as expected, isn't having it. When your job involves creating or influencing content that millions will engage with, where violence, albeit fictional, is a core mechanic, maybe it's time to reassess career paths or at least how you engage with the audience on such topics. But what does my community feel about this whole ordeal? Do you think that this Nick guy is up to the task, or am I being petty? Let me know in the comments. Halo Studios, meanwhile, continues its journey into Unreal 5 territory, promising new games with visuals that might just make us forget about these little PR hiccups. Guess what? The ghost from 343's past has come back to haunt Halo Studios. Will Waltz, who worked at 343 Studios over 13 years as a top-performing industry animator, decided to hold nothing back while shoveling dirt over to his old alma mater. Though he praised a lot of the employees that worked at the studio for their clear passion and dedication to the work, he then referred to the leadership of the now Halo Studios as creative limiting quote-unquote cancer, calling out Pierre Hintz specifically by name. Walt spilled the beans on how he tried to steer the ship towards Unreal Engine for Halo Infinite. He argued it would be the smart move for a game aiming to be quote-unquote vastly dynamic and open world, end quote. But oh no. The bigwigs thought otherwise, firing those who shouted the loudest for this change. Fast forward, and guess what? They're all aboard the Unreal Engine now. Irony? Thy names is Halo Studios. He then laments about the workplace environment, trying to convince the higher-ups that the best user experience stems from the artists and designers actually having fun while they make their best work creating the game, all while telling them that they would probably save billions if they took his advice. He was then promptly fired from his job via email, and heard a year later that they actually took on his idea to move to the Unreal Engine, without giving him credit, I would imagine. He then went on to talk about how he wishes that they would hand over the reins for Halo to Certain Affinity, a studio in which their own website states, quote unquote, we make the best games even better, end quote, and list games that they've worked on such as Halo series, Call of Duty, World of Tanks, and Age of Booty? It sounds like people that are passionate about the material, unlike Nick, who we mentioned earlier, and the Rebrand. Walt sees it as a smokescreen, an attempt to shake off 7 years of reputational baggage concerning employee treatment and work culture. But nothing like sunshine and LGBTQ plus rainbows to distract from the dark clouds looming overheads, right? Perhaps they should focus on catering to their work environment before trying to queerbait, right? Remember, soil comes before the plants. So, Halo Studio, you've got your own flood to contend with now. And it's not the kind you can shoot with a rainbow-coated plasma rifle either. This is internal, and might just need more than a name change and a flashy new engine to fix. Remember, you need good soil to grow plants, otherwise you're just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Are you looking forward to more Halo games in the near future? Tell me how you feel in the comments, baby. Speaking of the Titanic, hey there fellow kids! Did you see Kamala Harris's Twitch channel during her presidential rally this week, where she teamed up with streamer Preheat to play some World of Warcraft to keep you entertained and distracted from actual policy being laid down by VP candidate Governor Waltz? Well, if not good for you, your IQ is still probably above the triple digits. That is, assuming you still, in the words of the most successful non-presidents, Hillary Clinton, end up Pokemon going to the polls. We talked about Endymion's video last week, and he dropped another one. Now, generally, I try to avoid talking about Twitter gossip on this channel, especially stuff pertaining to a particular Kotaku journalist, because I'm a G, and I'm too focused on my own life to worry about the troubled mental state of activists on Twitter. However, this is coming from Michael Naukakowski, the CEO of CD Projekt Red, who apparently took issue with Endymion's latest video and is unrelated to the aforementioned Kotaku journalist. Picture unrelated. Michael retweeted and Endymion wrote, "Seems like we live in times where anyone can record complete nonsense and make a story out of it. CD Projekt Red talent leaving? We have the lowest rotation of people in recent years. DEI-driven recruitment? We hire people on merit and talent alone, just as we make games driven by artistic vision alone. Why did we choose Unreal Engine? Because it enables us to work on our games more efficiently, and we remain cutting edge tech-wise. The Witcher 3's director left? Well, yeah, that was more than 2 years ago. Now, can we stop looking for conspiracy theories and go back to making cool stuff?" End quote. Well, Endymion didn't back down. He clapped back with receipts for every allegation ever made on this post, including some of the material we've covered on this channel in the previous weeks. At the time of writing this, Michael Naukakowski has yet to reply, but come on, the guy is a CEO. He doesn't have all the time in the world to be on Twitter like us. However, with that being said, it's fair to say that leaving a huge stinking dump in a public bathroom, clogging the toilet, and leaving without saying a word doesn't exactly scream transparency. Despite Michael's claims, all the evidence seems to point to the contrary, as Jin Bartemius on Twitter points out. Don't forget, CD Projekt Red signed Poland's diversity charter, which makes signatories promise to do, amongst other things, the following: to create corporate culture and atmosphere which ensures respect for diversity by means of mainstreaming diversity management, age management, and equal opportunities in policies and procedures applied in our organization. 2. Introduce an internal institutional solutions in order to promote the development of equal rights, including the appointment of a person or team to coordinate all efforts meant to combat discrimination and mobbing in the workplace, and to develop and implement equal rights and diversity management policies in the workplace with special emphasis placed on recruitment, access to training, programs and promotion opportunities, remuneration, reconciliation of professional and family obligations, protection from mobbing, and unjustified dismissal. Our favorite culture warrior, Grums, even added his 2 cents. Methinks he doth protest too much, he says. Talent has been leaving AAA for the last few years from every major studio. Why focus on this moment? That's like saying one guy left this month when you have 2 years of brain drain before it. He tells you himself just a couple of sentences later, they lost Witcher 3's director. But no, focus on this month only, please. We haven't lost anyone 4 hours ago. Lowest rotation ever. This is literally picking a sample point and calling it a trend. Gotta look at the line over the past 2 to 3 years. The DEI denial is so strident and stands in stark contrast to their actions, given that the DEI is plastered all over their website and even in their CFO's video. You are even a signatory member of the diversity charter in the EU. They also have a DEI director. Any company that has a DEI director is already putting themselves in a major competitive disadvantage. You even bragged you won an award for, wait for it, menstrual leave. We all want CD Projekt Red to succeed, for Witcher 3 to be a great success, but this is just gaslighting from the CEO. Are we not supposed to believe your own website, video, signatory membership, and your own statements? He then brought in his own set of receipts. Well, now time to aim our iron sights at our favorite whipping boy of a company again. That's right, we're talking about Ubisoft. Okay, let's start with this. A little less than 2 weeks ago, I released my highest performing video, which will be linked in the cards, where I accidentally misspoke, presenting Ubisoft as going private already, when it hadn't been the case yet. But then I postulate this: their stocks are tanking. Now the question I'm going to pose is this deliberate? I'm going to posit perhaps, at least in the case of Ubisoft, they know this DEI slop doesn't sell, so therefore they utilize it to tank the company. Perhaps when they purchase a stock that they desire, they'll go back to focusing on profit over diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, it turns out, as the rumor mill continues to churn, this is turning out to be more of an acceptable theory that's got some legs to it, to the point that even IGN is reporting it. Yes, there is a reason why I am the big bad oracle of Santa Monica, or I just read The Art of War, so therefore I know ancient Chinese secrets. Time to fire up the rumor mill, Kabooby!
I heard a rumor.
According to Endymion, the YouTuber that brought us the alleged Ubisoft leaks, alongside the rumored turmoil we mentioned earlier at CD Projekt Red, brings us more potential news from a higher-up that is even more protective of his identity than the previous, apparently. In the video, the source alleges, Yasuke was pushed because Tencent knew the inclusion of his character as a leading man in a Japanese assassin game would raise many eyebrows and cause public outcry. Which, I mean, they're right, it did exactly that. He continued, and the discussion surrounding the game has not died down since, for good reason. As I'm told, decisions like implementing Yasuke, which would lead to many boycotting the game, was something pushed by Tencent investors to purposely tank Ubisoft in order to weaken the company towards an acquisition, effectively leading to Ubisoft, as we know, becoming far weaker, far less worth than it should be, and placing itself plump and ready for Tencent to waltz in and swallow the entire company whole. We've been covering the whole Ubisoft debacle for as long as we've been doing this video series. If you want to know more details, I suggest you watch the other videos linked in the cards. But for quick refresher, in the battle for Ubisoft's soul, AJ Investments, a Slovakian firm that has stake in Ubisoft, put out the statement. We believe the Guillemot family and Tencent are discounting potential value of Ubisoft in order to buy more shares at lower valuation and eventually take full control of the company at heavily discounted valuation. We value the great work that has been done by the Guillemots over the decades in Ubisoft, but now it's time to move on and restart the business with new shareholder approach and new management/CEO. The firm went on to say the Guillemot family and Tencent's collaboration blocked quote-unquote potential acquisitions and partnerships that could have been beneficial for the company and its shareholders Going on to say, more recently in 2022, private equity firms such as KKR and Blackstone expressed interest in acquiring Ubisoft, but were unable to proceed due to existing agreements that prevent any single entity from gaining control without the Guillemot and Tencent's consent. The pattern of blocking potential acquisitions has prevented much needed restructuring and revitalization that will benefit all the stakeholders of Ubisoft. Let me paint a potential narrative for where I see this going for you guys. Imagine Ubisoft sitting at a dimly lit table, contract in front of them. Across the table isn't some devil with horns, but Tencent, looking slicker than a used car salesman in a leather coat. They're not offering strength or fame, but at what cost? Tencent slides a contract over with a smile that doesn't reach their eyes. Sign here, we'll keep you afloat. Just a little piece of your soul. Company. And then there's our favorite Yves Guillemot, supposed to be in Ubisoft's corner, nodding like this is the best deal since sliced bread. Now, here's where it gets Faustian. Tencent isn't only after Ubisoft's signature, they're setting up a domino effect. They got one eye on Ubisoft's trembling hand holding that pen and the other scanning over the horizon, eyeing other souls to barter with, like Remedy, already feeling the weight of their own deals and financial failures despite its critical success. When Ubisoft signs, Tencent doesn't just get a company, a stepping stone. They stand up, not just as a partner. You thought this was about Ubisoft. No. This is just the beginning. First seal on a pact for dominion over the gaming realm. According to Endamion's video, anyone who dared speak up against the agenda Tencent was pushing on the game were met with swift punishment. This, paired with the sentiment coming from the reactions of dissatisfied gamers, is completely draining the morale of Ubisoft as a whole. Now Tencent, they're not just playing chess with Ubisoft, they're playing a game of souls. Ubisoft isn't their opponent, Ubisoft is now their rook, bought and paid for, as they aim to become overlord, the sole power broker in the gaming market. Each investment, each partnership, it's another soul in their ledger, another step towards becoming the ultimate gaming Beelzebub themselves. So, while the world watches Ubisoft sign away with a pen dipped in metaphorical blood, remember, Tencent isn't just collecting companies, they're collecting the gaming industry's very essence, one Faustian pact at a time. On that note, companies that Tencent has some sort of stake in better make sure that they maintain their quality before Tencent comes to clean things up. That includes companies such as ShiftUp, Riot Games. Yes, I'm looking at you, Miyazaki fans, From Software as well. So what do you think about my theory? Should I cover my buzzhead in a tinfoil hat or from here on out, or do you think I'm onto something? Leave it down in the comments. You know, it's so funny. I've never encountered a company that gets so much press off rumors swirling around it, both negative and I suppose this time positive. However, Splinter Cell fans rejoice. Apparently, the long-awaited rumored Splinter Cell remake has not been canceled. Ubisoft has been keeping this one under wraps. But word on the street is they're not just going remaster, they're going full-blown remake with this bad boy codenamed North. It's being crafted by the Snowdrop engine, the same engine that's been polishing up games like The Division 2 and that Avatar game. And the game is being developed by Ubisoft Toronto and could be coming out as early as 2026. No word on exact release date yet, but with Ubisoft's track record, you might want to keep your expectations in check. But hey, at least we know it's not canceled. You guys looking forward to this one? I've always been a Metal Gear guy, but maybe I'll give this a go if Ubisoft decides to clean up its act by then. Let me know in the comments. Outside the rumor mill, Bloomberg has reported that Ubisoft is facing a lawsuit for selling its users' data to Meta, otherwise known to most people as Facebook. According to the two American plaintiffs of the lawsuit, their data was sold to Facebook via parent company Meta's Pixel Tracker. Apparently, the plaintiffs had signed up for Ubisoft Plus subscription services while they were logged into Facebook. Ubisoft gathered the data from that transaction and shared it with Facebook. Man, you know, I'm starting to realize that Ubisoft's logo could be construed as a downward spiral, kind of like Ubisoft stocks of late. Funny how life presents metaphors like that, huh? Grum says, the plan is simple. Kill the Ubisoft stock and you kill other studios' enthusiasm for DEI. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Or as some might call it, dodging enthusiast ire. Remember how earlier in the video we talked about the gaslighting of the industry? Here's some fuel for that fire, courtesy of Konami, who recently ghosted a tweet about Blooper Team's take on Silent Hill 2, praising their authenticity for, quote-unquote, the modern audience. Oh, that mythical modern audience, ever so eager for pandering. Enter Hit Detection, the new kid on the DEI block, with their employee, Jacob Geller, the man who once tweeted that the world might be a utopia without gamers, now proudly consulting on Silent Hill 2. One of Hit Detection's services? According to their website, a sensitive issues assessment in which they say our team assesses the risk factors for depictions of character from unrepresented groups, themes, and potential community reaction. Because naturally, the last thing we want in our horror games is to offend anyone, right? Heaven forbid our horror content horrifies the blue hairs that profess to love the genre. The true essence of horror evidently lies not in pegging every one of your senses with a spiky dildo named Gaping Gary, but rather tiptoeing around them, ensuring that not a single nerve or pronoun is out of place. Could it be that the very foundation of horror has been misconstrued all this time? Interestingly, Jacob's tweets reveal a stance that's, let's say, not exactly gamer-friendly, hinting at a disdain for the very audience he's supposed to serve. You. It's almost as if these DEI consultants loathe not just gamers, but perhaps their own reflection in the mirror, considering they're a part of this very community. It should also be noted that in some tweets that have surfaced, it's very apparent that Jacob takes a very strong stance on the wing that isn't left and the original Gamergate, which is a word so dirty that he had to censor it in his tweet. Now, don't contact him or harass him, but stay vigilant when it comes to these companies working with our beloved gaming mega giants. I started streaming Silent Hill 2 pretty recently, and quite frankly, though I'm still in the beginning, the only thing that kind of struck me as off was who I would call DEI Vid Duchovny. Racer X, do you believe? I want to believe DEI Vid Duchovny, but The Guardian apparently doesn't feel as though that Hit Detective did an adequate job in the quest for representation when it comes to the subject of sexy monsters. Author of the review, Rich Woodworth, seemed off-put that the monsters were so arousing to him, claiming the sexualized monstrosities roaming the streets, meanwhile suggests James, the main character, is a man living life incognito browsing set to default. Not so quite zombies start out as giggling, acid-vomiting sacks of giblets in thongs, platform heels, and then evolve putridly through different archetypes of female sexiness until pairs of thighs in stockings are chasing James across the ceiling and hooting like howler monkeys. Well, it sounds to me that Rich is kind of projecting onto James here. Not once in the game so far have I seen any sort of arousal come from James amidst curb stomping what Rich describes as different archetypes of female sexiness. He gave the game 2 out of 5 stars, 1 star for each boner he probably popped for killing 200 nurses while playing. Do you feel as though that Rich feels as though it's sexy to stomp different archetypes of female sexiness with wooden planks, guns, and your shoes? Leave it down in the comments, incels. Is incel the new N-word for gamers? Leave that down in the comments as well. Incels! Incels! Anyway, things are looking kind of suspect in the Square Enix department, and quite frankly, this channel needs to issue a correction to our reporting. Remember that interview with Dragon Quest creator Yuji Horii? Well, it turns out that it wasn't just him making those comments. He was also alongside former Weekly Shonen Jump editor Chief Kazuhiko Torishima, who also made the comments talking about how ridiculous America is being. For reference, Kazuhiko was a man in white. Well, now Square Enix decided to issue its own brand of correction by doing its best to scrub the interview from the internet. Don't look here, guys. Nothing to see here. So, the issue at play is apparently in the interview, the person who originally translated it mistranslated the term sex education for Puritan, in which the powers that be used that as a crowbar to justify completely discrediting the interview, the clip specifically as a whole, despite the juicy quotes, such as referring to America as, quote, such a ridiculous country. The interviewer, probably feeling the heat, decides to dive into this mess with all the grace of a goblin tripping over its own feet, saying, hey, everyone, this was just a tiny slice, a mere 2 minutes from our epic 90-minute chat. And oh, by the way, it was translated by someone who probably learned English from a cereal box. But here's the real zinger. They only complained about the puritanical part being off. What about the rest? You're missing the forest for the trees. And then Square Enix, the corporate overlords of our beloved JRPGs, decide the best course of action is to hit the delete button. Trying to scrub an interview off the internet is like trying to attempt to unring a bell. Good luck with that, guys. But you know what? I'm low-key here for it, because amidst all this corporate censorship and virtual book burning, there are legends like Yuji Horii out there still daring to drop some truth bombs. It's like watching a hero stand up to a Dark Lord, except the Dark Lord's got a whole PR team and a legal department. So cheers to the rebels and the nonconformists, those who speak up, even when the censorship tape is being measured against their mouths. Keep it real, keep it raw, and never let them silence the voice of the people. Gamers, rise up. Some folks in Japan have even joined in on the conversation. At Mako Art says, even if there is a mistranslation, the general meaning doesn't change. So there's no need to worry. I don't think anyone watched that video and thought he was blaming the American education system. What caught everyone's attention was a statement that Japan is also being influenced negatively by America. And then there was at NoriyukiWorks86 saying, no, nothing said was wrong. Freedom of expression in Japan is being destroyed by modern America. You guys remember Concord? I mean, how could you have already forgotten about it? Well, I guess Sony wants to make sure that you guys never forget, because according to the Steam database, the files are still being updated, hinting at a potential revival for the game. The embers of gaming's biggest flop of all time seemingly burn forever in our hearts and our memories. Will you give Concord a chance if it comes back as a free-to-play game? Leave it down in the comments. Well, folks, we're almost done with the Gomi for today. On the note of JRPGs, we're going to look over Metaphor Refantasio, which has been getting incredible critical acclaim. I may have to quote-unquote get it myself, and I put get it in quotations because according to the end user license agreement for the demo, it explicitly states you acknowledge and agree that you have no ownership or other property interest in the product, and you further acknowledge and agree all such rights are and shall forever be owned and insured to the benefit of Sega. As @Pirate Nation tweeted, they aren't even hiding it anymore. Consumer rights are at their weakest. Here's a question going around. If buying isn't owning, is piracy still stealing? We're done with the Gomi. Let's talk about some absurd news. Brace yourself for the crossover that almost seasoned your fighting game experience with a touch of southern hospitality. So, Katsuhiro Harada, the big boss of Tekken, had this wild idea to throw Colonel Sanders into the mix. Yes, the KFC Colonel himself into the fray of Tekken 7. Frying pans instead of fists.
It's definitely a no for me, dog.
Now, why would KFC say no to such a golden opportunity for brand exposure? Who knows? Maybe they were afraid Colonel Sanders would lose his dignity in a pile driver or get his pristine whites dirtied in the ring. Or perhaps, just perhaps, they're just saving him for a different kind of culinary combat. Would you like to see the Hamburglar and Colonel Sanders duke it out outside of Waffle House? If not, who would you like to see them face off against? Who are your favorite fast food mascots, consumer? Leave it down in the comments. Did you know that Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, the next game coming from Ryuga Gotoku Studio, was originally going to be called Like a Dragon Tuna, where the original protagonist and Badman Autist, Kiryu Kazuma, was fighting fishermen. Honestly, both games sound incredibly dumb, and I would play both of them with a stupid smile on my face. Politicians with the wisdom of their galaxy brain often pontificate on how video games mold the psyche of their player. If that's the case, then post-game one might find me at the local kumbini engaging in an act of culinary combat against a cashier, leaving a mark of real-life tuna across her back, solely because she dared to suggest that Sagawa isn't the GOAT of the Yakuza series. In Roblox, of course. In other Sega news, are you men and women of culture? Did you like the Shinobi game? If so, let me know in the comments if you're more into Joe Musashi, Hatsuma, or whoever the chick was in Konoichi. Sorry, fun game, but I'm not going to bother looking up her name. Well, if you're fans of the series, you'll be delighted to hear that Universal is teaming up with Sega to bring Shinobi to the silver screen. The movie will be directed by Sam Hargrave, and Sega is producing it. Man, I loved Shinobi for PlayStation 2. I remember waking up before school during E3 and seeing the announcement for it on GameSpot. I could not contain my excitement. I woke up the whole house. Despite not fully learning the mechanics properly, I still beat the game on extreme mode because I'm a G. Anyways, talking about beating Sega games, let's flip the script and talk about how Sega just cannot stop winning. As of today, Metaphor Refantasio has officially been released. People are calling this the game of the year and are unapologetically saying things like they like this more than the Persona games. At the time of writing this, the game is sitting at a cool 93 out of 100 on review aggregate Metacritic. And according to Steam statistics, the game is already more popular than Final Fantasy XVI. Square ought to be taking notes at this point. They've officially been toppled by Sega in the realm of classic JRPGs. I actually want to make a video about this at some point. Sega isn't stopping there. Spotted in Times Square was an ad for the JRPG. That is so awesome. So what do you guys think? Are you guys going to be playing Metaphor in the coming days, weeks, months? Are we going through a classic JRPG revival? Leave it down in the comments. In other news of franchise comebacks, after the critical and commercial success of film Alien Romulus, it looks as though that we're getting a sequel to Alien Isolation. The game, according to a heartfelt press release statement coming from the original game's director, Al Hope, commemorating the game's 10th anniversary while showing a lot of gratitude towards the fans, has officially announced that a sequel is in early stages of development. You know what's crazy, Racer X? If you told me a week ago that a Dragon Ball Z game is destroying Call of Duty in terms of pre-orders, I would have looked towards the sky to see the spirit bomb that would bring about the end of times. It's not just one, but a whopping 3 versions of Sparking Zero that are absolutely smoking Call of Duty Black Ops 6 in the pre-order charts for the PlayStation 5. And get this, the deluxe edition? Yeah, that sucker's not just winning, it's outpacing the standard edition like it's nobody's business. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero exploded onto the scene, hitting the Steam charts with a whopping over 90,000 concurrent players on its very first day of early access. I mean, talk about making an entrance. That is no small feat, my dude. It's already outgunning heavy hitters like Street Fighter 6, that stood at 70k, Tekken 8 at 49k, and at the time of writing this, the game stands at an 82 Metacritic average. Man, in the span of a week, we've got 3 heavy-hitting games. Silent Hill 2 Remake, Metaphor Reantaso, and Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero. You eating good, gamers? Which ones will you guys be playing? Anything new, or are you just sticking to the classics this time around? You better let me know in the comments. So, like nearly after 2 decades of the show wrapping up, Avatar: The Last Airbender is finally getting a video game that's not just some rushed cash grab. This time around, it's Saber Interactive, those folks that brought us the Wolverine game, and most recently Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, so you know they know how to cover lore. And they're stepping up to the plate. They're promising something epic, something that actually respects the source material. Can you believe it? This isn't just some other licensing deal where they slap an Avatar name on some generic beat 'em up. Plus, they're not holding back on the story. It's supposed to slot right into the series timeline, giving us new adventures that feel like they've always been a part of the Avatar universe. We're talking about a fully realized world with all 4 nations, the whole bending shebang, and maybe, just some of that spirit and humor that made the show a classic. You guys missing Kratos yet? Well, a new adventure may not exactly be on the horizon, but if rumors are true by the credited leaker, at Ignis the Wise on X, we might be getting some refurbished God of War content soon. In a tweet he writes, "Yes, the rumors are true. God of War Saga Remaster. Full title, in the works at Santa Monica Studios and Nix's Software. The development is finished and they are waiting for an announcement release. Releasing in 2025 with an announcement December through March." Gaming YouTuber at Hidden Xperia went on X to make me seethe with jealousy. He states, "I'm very excited to announce that I've been at Bungie all week, playing Marathon. Can't give any specifics yet, all I can say is, man, what a surreal experience, LOL. You can't fake that enthusiasm. All jokes aside, I really hope he's enjoying the game because it gives me hope that I will end up enjoying it as well. Hopefully, it strikes the right notes of nostalgia for me when it releases." Word on the street is Nintendo, yes, that Nintendo, is diving back into the VR pool. If these patents are anything to go by, they're filing for VR headset tech, which has everyone's minds racing about what the next Switch might look like. Could it be we are looking at a Switch 2 that's going to be all hands-free? They're not just whispers anymore. They're like Nintendo sending a smoke signal that VR might be the next big thing for them. And while all of us are still nursing the burns from the Virtual Boy days, this could be a little different. It's not just about strapping goggles and hoping for the best. We're talking about Nintendo potentially integrating VR into their DNA, where your next Zelda adventure doesn't just let you swing a sword with motion controls, but just maybe you're dodging Ganon's attacks by ducking or gargling his balls. It's speculation galore, but if Nintendo pulls this off, the gaming landscape is about to get a lot more immersive. Stay tuned, because if there's one thing Nintendo loves, it's surprising us all. My God, I'm exhausted. So guys, let me know, which news makes you feel as though that you want to experience love again? Which news makes you want to yell at women and minorities? And which news makes it feel like everything in life is falling into place? Please let me know in the comments. I'm Locust, it's been real. I'll catch you guys in next week's roundup. Bye bye.